In this video series, we're going to be looking at creating a two-sided thermal label using a reference number. So if you have a reference number in your shipping label data file, which in many cases is going to be a ZPL file, if you have a reference number that is somehow tied to your packing slip data file, for example a file naming convention or just the file name or part of the file name, we can then use that to link the packing slip and shipping label and merge them together and print them. And this is different than the composite data file method, which is used also to create two-sided thermal labels, and that's documented elsewhere in this two-sided thermal label playlist. This method's a little bit easier in that you only need 2 projects as opposed to 3, and you of course don't need a composite data file. So it's a little bit easier if you have that reference number in your data file. So how do we make it work? Well, we're going to split this up into 2 parts. In this part we're going to look at creating the shipping label, and in the next part we're going to reference a packing slip project that's already been built and merge the 2 together. So first things first, let's create our shipping label project here. We're going to select File and New Project, and I'm going to right click the project and select Properties and Printer Control. And from the simplex duplex field, I'm going to select long edge duplex and select OK. I'm then going to right click the project and select Add Page and select OK. And then I'm going to right click the page and select Add Form, and I'm going to select Blank and OK. This is going to be my shipping label form. So for the page size, I'm going to select 4x8 label. I'm going to do the same for the packing slip form as well. But I'm going to, down here in the paper side, I'm going to select front because I want the shipping label to print on the front side. And I'm also going to offset the data a little bit from the top, and this is going to make it a little bit easier for me to print it, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. And select OK. I want to rename this form here, so I'm going to right click it, and near the bottom here select Rename. I'm just going to call this Ship. That's easy enough. I'm then going to right click the page again and select Add Form and Blank, and this is going to be my packing slip form, and I'm only going to reference an external project to bring in the packing slip merge data and form itself, but I need a placeholder form to do that in this project. And I'm going to select the page size and make it 4x8 label as well. Page sizes have to match between the shipping label and the packing slip in order for it to print successfully. I want to select Exclude Data because I'm bringing the data in from another project. And I'm also going to change the paper side to back. I want the packing slip to print on the back side of my duplex pack slip label. So click OK here. I'm going to rename this, and I'm just going to rename this Slip. It's easy enough to remember. So to get all of this to display, I'm going to right click the project and select Display Forms and Data. It's going to ask me for some data, so I'm going to keep it at From File and select OK. And I'm going to look for the data file, and if I change files of type, the drop down here to All Files, I'm going to see everything, and I want my UPS2 label ZPL file here. It's for my shipping label data, and select OK, and there it is. So a couple things to note here. You'll see that the offset down here in the bottom pane of the viewer, and that's because of this number I entered earlier. You can change that with the arrows, and you can mess with that a little bit, or you can just manually enter the number that you want. I'm going to keep it at 650. And also, if I move over to the packing slip page, you'll notice there's no data showing up, and that's because we excluded the data earlier. We're going to bring that data in the second part of this video. And finally, if I scroll down here in my data file, there is the reference number I want. There's actually 2 reference numbers, but the one that I'm going to be using is reference number 2 here, and that's because this is a key part of my data file for my packing slip. My packing slip is XML, so it's 848027, and then it'll have a .xml, but we're going to recreate that in a moment. And if I move over to the second label here in my data file, it's 848028, and so basically this shipping label data file contains a reference number to the packing slips data file, so it's easier to match it. So if you can do that, this method will work for you, and it will save you a lot of time. It's a much smoother method. So I'm going to left click this reference number 2 here and select add variable, and I'm going to check copy original data to output, and I'm going to keep it at, call it actually ref2. I'm picking up the data as you can see here in the variables, but I don't want actually the ref2 and colon, so I'm going to right click it and select add function and substring, and I'm going to start at about character 6. That's about where the colon is, and for 100 characters that gives me a lot of space in case the the numbers change, the file name numbers change. Select OK, and we look at the variables. There we go, it just has my number. So now I want to recreate the file name and its location because I want to test to see if that file is actually there. So to do that, I'm going to right click my form, my shipping label form here, and select add variable by position. I'm again going to copy original data to output, and I'm going to call this, we'll call it file name. There we go. And I'll select OK. And to the file name variable, I'm going to right click it and select add function set value. And I'm going to set it to the ref2 variable. Select OK. So as we see down here, they're the same. Here's where I'm going to change it. I'm going to right click the variable, select add function and concatenate. And I'm going to add a .xml to it and select OK. And I'm almost there because I want to also put the folders, the folder that is where it's located, as well on this variable. So I'm going to right click it and select add function and insert string. And at character position 0 at the very beginning of this string, I'm going to add where it is. And you can copy and paste this. It might be easier than manually typing it in. It is case sensitive. So I'm just going to type it in. And there we go. So that's Minisoft eFORMz 6 projects translated to ST. That's the folder where these XML files are going to be at. I'm going to select OK. And there it is. We see it's been adjusted down here in my variables window. So now I'm going to make a final variable before we move on to the packing slip in part 2. And that is going to be to test to see if the file is actually there. So I've got that, copy original data to output, as per usual. I'm going to right click this variable, and select add function, and way down here at the bottom, and you may not be able to see it on your screen, but it's, if you're following along you'll be able to see it. It's called does file exist under add function. And if you select it and just switch over to variable and select the file name variable and select OK, you're going to have a test to see whether it was there or not, and as we see, it's there. That's good news. So our file is showing up. If I move to my second label page, excellent, 848028 is showing up as well. So I have both of my packing slip files where I want them. That's excellent. In the second part, we're going to go through how we bring the packing slip over using this reference number.